Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy show. My name is Hassani, and I am here with Lakeisha, the illustrious Lakeisha Hines, who's one of the practitioners here at Couples Academy. And we're glad that you are joining us here this morning. We're excited about this conversation. It's been a long time coming. We covered this from time to time, but it's also good to circle back around. We're talking about the fact that men hurt too. Now,
Yes.
Lakeisha, it's interesting because we've been talking offline about the fact that there's not a lot of information out there that really address the pain of the husband, because the assumption is it's the wife who typically is cheated on. And so they're the ones in pain, as if men don't have their own pain as well.
Yes. And the sad thing is this happens across the board, Hassani. It's not just about infidelity, right? If you think about abuse, if you think about molest, that happens in childhood, we often hear about the women, but we don't hear about the men who also suffer from molestation and inappropriate touching. There were those trendsetters like Tyler Perry who came out and shared his story about how he experienced molestation at a young age. And so he kind of opened the door, I think, not to say that there weren't others before him, but I think he was very pivotal in really highlighting the fact that men get abused too, men get touched too. And it alarmed me because I have 3 boys. I'm opposite of you, Hassani. You got those beautiful girls, but I have 4 boys, and I was thinking, oh, I'm good. I'm good. I don't have to worry about this. But when I heard his story, I realized, man, I got to watch my boys too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is going to be a good conversation. Listen, guys, before we even get started, we want to make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Let the people know that we are here, because this is a conversation that you really want to dive into. So let's go a little bit further here. And to your point, I think him being vocal about what he experienced, Tyler Perry, that is, did open up the floodgates and people started having conversations. We even have seen a shift, right? There was a time where everything was a women's retreat, a women's conference, a women's getaway, and those were necessary because women really prioritize on their healing, their self-help. They're taking time to, just retreat. And that wasn't something that men typically did, but we're starting to see a shift now where there's a huge focus on men and becoming the men that they were designed to be, and how to be husbands and how to be fathers. But oftentimes it's a focus on the roles that they play and fulfill, but not a deep dive internal exploration into what's going on within. Because if you can't be a good man, if you can't show up for yourself, then certainly you're not going to be any good to anyone else. And so that personal healing is so critically important. And here's the fact: men do hurt, and they hurt in many ways. And now it's interesting. Generally speaking, most people who do reach out to us are wives who have been betrayed by their husbands. But recently, and I've seen even a shift in 2023, there is such an uptick of individuals who are reaching out, wives who saying, listen, I was the one who was unfaithful and my spouse is hurting. And I don't know how to help him get through this. And it's a very real thing. And we have to address it, because the face of the betrayed spouse isn't always a woman. It is a man as well.
Yeah, Hassani, I love that we're doing this topic today, to be completely honest with you, because, I too was guilty of that. I remember years and years and years ago, like early into my marriage, because, my husband is not one of those people who is emotional, and most men aren't. Most men are not super emotional, right? And I would say, gosh, you're so robotic. Like, I need to check your pulse and see if you're breathing. Like, I would say these crazy things to him because he wasn't emotional the way that I am, right? But I realized that, you know what? He's experiencing emotions. It's just in a different way. And I had to get in tune and get in touch with how my husband expresses his emotions and how he experiences his hurts and his pains and what that looks, feels, and sounds like, because it doesn't look the way it looks for me, or feel or sound the way it looks for me. And so really getting to know your partner, getting to know your spouse, and understanding what their hurt looks,
Yeah.
feels, and sounds like, I think is critical.
Absolutely, Lakeisha. And so we're going to talk about two types of men, right? And we're going to break this up with a break. But the first half of the show, we're going to talk about the betrayed spouse who happens to be a man and what
Mhm.
he goes through. And then on the second half of this show, we're going to talk about the unfaithful spouse who happens to be a man and the level of hurt and pain that he carries as well. And so let's dive into this topic. So we know that there are many men who have always been taught, at least historically, that if my spouse ever cheats, I'm leaving. That's the knee-jerk reaction. That's how we think. But you know what? That may sound good on social media. That may be the advice that you get. Man, if my woman cheated, I would never stay. But the fact of the reality is that is so far from what we currently see. There's so many men who still love their spouse, who still want to be in a relationship with their spouse, but they're in pain. And
Mhm.
their pain shows up in different ways. You know, you talk
Mhm.
about the emotional scale. And so on one end of that scale, there's deep sadness and depression and a sense of hopelessness and helplessness. And they become feeble minded and don't know how to function. Like they're preoccupied, just like a woman experiences this level of
Mhm.
pain. Listen, women don't have a monopoly on how they express their pain. Men go through the same thing, but on the opposite side, there's a rage and a fury and a
Mhm.
vengefulness to want to take action and make everybody pay, right? And so we're dealing with men who don't know how to properly manage their emotions. You said something very critical. Men aren't emotional. Not that men don't have emotions, because men and
Yes.
women have the same number of emotions. We just in this society have been taught to manage them in a particular way that's really mismanagement, because we suppress, we push down, and we passive aggressively or very aggressively react to these emotions.
Yes, and it goes back to what have we been taught, right? What have we been taught? Men have been taught to do that. Men have been taught to show weakness, and it starts when you're boys. It starts when you're little boys, when you fall down and you get the boo-boo, you get the scrape on your knee, and you're told, "Don't you cry." Mm-mm. You suck it up. You get up, go on, brush it off, and keep going. Like you're not allowed to even feel the pain, let alone express it. Like you don't even get to sit in the pain after you physically have hurt yourself. I remember my husband telling me that he hurt himself in high school playing basketball, and his mom like never took him to the doctor. She's
Mm,
like, "It's okay, like you'll be all right." But that's what we do, right? From a young age, we're teaching and training our young princes that when they become kings, that a sign of strength and
mm,
power is not to reveal your weaknesses, which is so contrary to what actually should be happening. It takes strength to be able to show your weakness, but it's how you go about doing it. And
very
that's
true.
the shift. That's what we got to do is equip our males with the ability to express their emotions in a healthy and a positive way where they still get
Absolutely.
the respect and maintain their power.
I want to talk to the man right now who's enraged. I want to talk to the man right now who's seething in anger, and you're on the verge of doing something that's potentially harmful to you, to your spouse, to your family, to your future. You don't have to do it. There's a way that you can process those
Mhm.
emotions. I mean, if I'm being honest, when we get alone and we have our dialogue amongst men, there have been many who have literally contemplated uh, murdering the affair partner, like
Yes.
literally taking him out, and have
Mhm.
strategized it in their minds, have come up with ways that they would do it, then hide the weapon, have the alibis, and they've plotted this out in their mind ongoing. And so the reality is, a lot of times that anger and that rage and that frustration is their choice to take it out on someone else, but who
Yes.
they're really mad at is their spouse. And
Wait,
because they
wait,
would never
hold
do.
on. Pause, pause. They're mad at their spouse, right? But they're also mad at themselves.
Mm,
Because you're going against the grain. You're going against the societal norms and everything that you've been taught and everything that you told yourself that I'm not going to leave. I mean, sorry, I'm going to leave if they cheat and you choose to stay. Now you're in internal conflict with yourself as well
yes.
as the outside world. So, yes, you're angry with your spouse who did this to you, but you're angry with yourself because you're staying in the relationship with the person who did this to you.
Because oftentimes they feel like they're betraying themselves for staying. So not only did
Yes,
you betray
yes.
me, but now I'm betraying myself
Myself,
for
yes.
staying. I
Mhm,
feel stupid. Like am
mhm,
I stupid to stay? There's a level of shame. What if this gets
mhm.
out and other people find out what you did? Now I
Yeah.
got to carry that stigma around. Oh, you're the guy who couldn't keep a happy home. And of course, your wife went out. See, so there's a lot going on.
Wow,
A lot going
wow.
on that fuels the flame and the anger and the fire that's burning on the inside of that particular person. And so, fine, you haven't done it yet, and prayerfully, you will never do it. But let's just keep in mind that there are many people who are behind bars today serving life sentences because they couldn't manage their emotions and they
Mhm,
took out their anger, their frustration, their rage on their spouse.
mhm,
Listen,
mhm.
Danielle and I know of a situation where someone literally killed their partner. They
Yes,
weren't married, but they had a family,
yes.
and there was a lot going on as a result of some trauma. And he literally murdered the woman, his girlfriend, in
Mm,
front of the children.
mm.
So this is a very real thing. We're not
It's a
playing with
real
this thing.
thing.
And
That's
so
right.
there's so many people whose lives have been ruined and lost because of their inability to manage their emotions properly. So fine, let's not go to that extreme, but you become physically abusive to your
Mm,
spouse. You
mm,
become verbally abusive to your spouse because of your inability to manage these emotions. And this
yeah.
is why you need to get help, because you cannot do it on your own.
No. No,
It,
and we have couples right now who, they don't define what they're doing as physical abuse, but pushing, shoving, choking, that's considered physical abuse. If you're doing anything that is harmful to your spouse, that inflicts pain or fear or anything in them, it's abusive. And especially when you are out of control, you are not able to control your thoughts, your emotions, your actions. You need to get help because, like I said, we have clients every single day who are dealing with this, and not just the physical abuse, it's verbal as well. And thank you, Darren, you in my head, brother. He said verbally abusive is real too. That's right. When you're coming home and you're telling your wife she's a slut, and how could you do this, and you like, I can't believe you did all these things, and you pointing the finger, calling them out their name, that's verbal abuse as well. So there are many, many layers to this, and you definitely have to get this under control sooner versus later because it's only going to escalate and get worse.
We talk about this process called releasing the rage, which is a very
Mhm.
healthy, constructive way to deal with those emotions. Because, listen, suppressing it is not solving the problem. All you're doing is, forcing them to lie dormant until another situation arises, and then it just unleashes, and it could be more destructive later on. So you got to release the rage because there's a level of rage and anger and frustration on the inside of you. And so, listen, the revenge doesn't just mean, listen, I'm going to murder and kill and this, that, and the other. But the revenge could be, well, you did it, now I'm going to do it. Like,
Yes.
there's a gentleman who wrote a book a long time ago, former colleague of mine, and the name of the book was entitled Men Don't Heal, We Hoe. And it talks
Oh,
about when a woman
woo.
has hurt a man, because he does not know how to deal with those emotions, he will turn off that aspect of his life, and he makes an internal vow to never put himself in that vulnerable position
Yes.
again. And he will take out on all women what was done to him by a particular
Mm,
woman. And so now, fine, Annie up. You gonna cheat with me? Now I'm going for the gusto. Now I'm going for 10 and for 20. And listen, I'm gonna have a field day. And no matter what I do, it will not measure up to the pain that you caused me. So just deal with it. Deal with it or go. And so we've seen this where men
mhm.
have gone ham and have multiple affairs within their
Yeah.
marriage as a way of evening the score, or seeking revenge on their partner, or creating more hurt, but don't realize that the hurt they're causing their partner, of course, is also an internal hurt that they're embodying within themselves, and it's not bringing them any closer to healing.
Mhm. Absolutely. I love Power Couple. And good morning, Cali Power Couple said, we men need to understand that our true strength is understanding the pain isn't the weakness. It's actually clouded healing. Men just need solid men to become solid, to be soft for their queens. What?
Wow.
Wow. Absolutely, 100%.
Wow.
There is strength in your weakness. And if we can get men to understand that, oh my gosh, how much more free would these people be, right?
Yeah, it would be. Listen, guys, we're going to continue this conversation. And man, it proves that men are listening because men are all up in the chat
All
commenting,
up
and
in
we're
the chat.
glad that you're here. We're going to go to a quick commercial break and come back and talk about the other side of the equation. If you are the former unfaithful, the pain that you go through. Be right back. You're watching the Couples Academy show.
Welcome to the Couples Academy app. The Couples Academy app is your go-to hub for how to do marriage right. Get started with our app today by perusing our amazing features that conveniently allow you to connect. This app is packed with powerful content and resources to help you grow and stay connected. With this app, you can watch our messages, find marriage resources, watch, listen, and read the real-life stories of restored couples, sign up for events, read articles and blog posts, stay up to date with push notifications, share your favorite messages via Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or email, and download messages for offline listening. For more information about the Couples Academy app, go to couplesacademy.org.
All right, guys, we're back. You're watching the Couples Academy show. I'm on with Lakeisha Hines. We're talking about the fact that men hurt too, and it is very true. Men are in pain right now. Those of you who are watching, we know who you are, and we want to let you know that we are here for you. We provide resources and services and support and everything you need. That's why we have a Last Chance Weekend, so you can resolve the issues in your family. That's why we have Foundry, so that you can focus on your own internal pain and becoming the best version of yourself. So please reach out to us, 678-200-8996. Go to the website. Let's see how we can serve you. But now we're talking about the unfaithful, right? Because the assumption is, wait a minute. You caused this. Why are you hurting, right? And I think there was a comment even in here, if I could get to it. I think it's Latoya. Here it is up at the top. It says, what you mean by men hurt? Because I know men hurt, but sometimes they cause their own hurt, period. Now, very true. Listen, one of the things that we say, and it cannot be denied, is that when a man cheats, it creates hurt and pain in that woman. But oftentimes there was hurt and pain and brokenness inside of that man that caused him to do what he did from the beginning. And so when somebody cheats, yes, it's an indication that there's something going on the inside of that person that is not whole, that has not healed. There's some residue from the past that has gone unresolved. Maybe it was a past relationship where you've been broken. There's trust issues. Maybe it's something that stemmed from your childhood. Like we know people who've experienced a spirit of abandonment because of the rejection they received from their mother. Okay. And so now, because I experienced rejection and abandonment from my mother, it seems like, according to this person, every other woman that I've ever had in my life has abandoned me. Well, wait a minute. So there was a brokenness that was created in that initial relationship that caused you to show up in all future relationships in a particular way that reinforce some of the same bad behavior. So we carry personal patterns that oftentimes lead to relational patterns. But speak about this hurt that the unfaithful person goes through, and you counsel many people, so you know a lot of this.
Yes, for sure. And I mean, why are we making it about a penis or a vagina? Like, why does that dictate whether or not the person is in pain because of their gender? Like, I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense to me, because the reality is this: we were both in a relationship. We both felt like everything was okay. And even if it was bad, we weren't thinking it was bad enough for someone to cheat, for someone to be unfaithful. So we have all this sympathy and compassion for the woman who's been cheated on. Why can we not have that for a man too? If he was just as invested, if he was just as involved and he gets cheated on, why does he not get our compassion and our sympathy and understanding and support? So I'm sorry, we're equal opportunity employers here at Couples Academy, right? So it's not we're going to give more weight to a woman or more weight to a man. Men hurt too. That's the whole subject. That's the whole point. They're human beings. They have blood and vessels and bones just like women do. They have a heart just like women do. So if their heart gets broken, yes, that's going to hurt. And honestly, about to get in trouble now, Hassani. But honestly, I almost feel like it hurts men more because of their pride and their ego. For a man, it's like, listen, I'm taking care of things. I'm holding it down. Like, I'm taking care of the family. I'm doing everything. I'm going out here in these streets. I'm working hard. And I'm trying to make the best life for you and this family. And this is the thanks that I get, that you step out on me, you cheat. Men have a tendency. Oh, you remember that old saying? Like, you can dish it out, but you can't take it in.
Yeah.
A lot of that, I think, stem from this whole infidelity thing, with men being the ones who statistically are the ones who cheat the most, right? But they can't handle it when it happens to them. And I want to give you a statistic, because there was research from the past 2 decades that says 20 to 25% of married men cheat, and between 10 and 15% of married women cheat. So we cheat too, not me. But I mean, women, right? We cheat too. And the same way it hurts when we get cheated on, it's going to hurt a man too if he's cheated on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go to this comment. I cause all this hurt to myself and my wife. Sometimes I feel God is punishing me for all the wrong that I've done and causes. Let me just say that, when it comes to sin, God ultimately wants to redeem us. God ultimately wants us to repent of our ways and come back to him and to get into right standing with him. But you have to understand that when it comes to any sin or any bad behavior, there's always going to be a consequence for that behavior.
Yeah.
If you think about David in the Bible, we know that David cheated with Bathsheba, right? And there were 8 consequences that followed as a result. Now, he still had a relationship with God. God ultimately forgave him when he made this decision to repent, but there were consequences. And I think, unfortunately, we don't realize that there's cause and effect for everything. It is a law, and you cannot be removed from the law of sowing and reaping and cause and effect. And so, yes, there are going to be some natural consequences that take place as a result of what you engage in. It was established in the system that he ultimately created. And in those consequences and in that punishment that you face, ultimately, these situations hopefully draw us back to him.
Right.
We have found that so many people have gotten into spiritual alignment with God because the weight and the pressure and the pain of what they've caused was too much for them to bear on their own. Their intellect alone couldn't do it. Their emotional capacity alone couldn't do it. Their physical strength alone couldn't do it. It took someone above and beyond themselves to help get them back into place. And so, listen, it's not God punishing you. I think.
Come on.
And
Jump me in, coach.
listen, we have a tendency of blaming God, blaming the devil, blaming the government, blaming the man, blaming our parents, blaming everything but looking at the man in the mirror. And so at the end of the day, God has given us grace.
Yes.
God wants to bring us back to him. So seek him, because what happens is, if we truly believe that God is punishing us, then what happens a lot of times, now we're mad at God.
Come on.
Right. And we're mad at God. And so because I'm mad at you, I don't choose to believe in you because you're not doing for me what I need you to do, as if he's a genie, as if he's something we can rub and the genie pops out and he grants us wishes. Our misinterpretation of the word of God is more powerful than the word of God. Did you hear that?
Tap me in, coach.
Tap. Come on in.
Man, listen, do you know who Dion Cole is? He's a comedian, right? Actor and comedian. Dion Cole did this stand-up performance, and he was talking about how we in the church, us saved folks, we always want to give Jesus credit for stuff that he don't need the credit for. You know, like, oh man, we ran out of liquor at the party and somebody brought other liquor. Jesus ain't have nothing to do with that. Okay. So oftentimes, like you said, just piggybacking off of what you said, we're giving God credit for things that really it's us. It is us. Like you said, we give it to the enemy, but it is us. And you said this, Hassani, so profoundly, right? The enemy is enemy. And at the end of the day, what we have created this picture, society has created this picture of God as being a punisher. And that is not who he is. He's a lover and he's a forgiver and he's a healer and a restorer. But we want to focus on this quote unquote punishment part. But what happens is we put ourselves in situations and circumstances that we were never supposed to be in. And so when we are out of alignment with God, what happens? He removes his covering. So he's allowed certain things to happen, not necessarily that he made it happen. Yeah. You made it happen because you were somewhere you weren't supposed to be, doing something you were not supposed to be doing. So you got to take ownership of what it is that you did or did not do. And after infidelity, the couples who we have seen that have been most successful, they confess and admit the reason how infidelity happens is because they got out of alignment with God. And that infidelity gets them back in alignment and right standing with God. And that's how they're able to persevere and press on and prosper.
You better preach. If I had $1 right now, I got to go to Peter because I want to listen, brother. I hear you. He says, I suffered the worst pain I have ever felt in my life. Some women are heartless. So let me just say, many men can attest to that. That the pain that they've endured after the discovery of an affair is worse than anything that they've ever experienced before. The fight. There are so many men who say, I've been on the battlefield. I've been in the courtroom. I've been in the boardroom, and nothing compares to the pain and the struggle and the hardship that I've had in the bedroom in terms of what happens after the discovery of an affair. Now, he ends by saying that she's heartless. What I will say is that she has a broken heart. Her heart has been broken, and broken-hearted people become broken people, and broken people do broken things. Yes. And in her brokenness, I'm sure she's given it to you, bro.
The business.
Like, the business for Riznell. She's giving it to you because she's seething in pain and hurt, and she's going to give back to you what you have given to her. And so listen, that's why it is so disastrous to try to go through this process on your own. So there's a double hurt that's happening here, right? Because we know that you feel guilty. So that's a pain within itself. Right? Because every time you look at your wife and you're looking at her pain and her hurt and her harsh words, and maybe she's doing things that are destructive, or maybe she's in tears, you feel guilty. That's a pain within itself. But then there's the shame that you carry, which is an additional pain within itself, because you don't even like the guy that was involved in that, which was you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you want to reject who you once were, that whole identity. So there's a shame. But then there's the regret of what you've done. Regret is a pain. So you're constantly trying to replay the tape, wishing that you could do something different, wishing that you could change the past, but you can't. So you're carrying regret. There's all of these emotions that you're carrying that weigh so heavy on your heart and your mind. And I know many men who have suffered physically. They've wound up in the hospital. They've had nervous breakdowns. They've had heart attacks. Their health has been compromised. They've lost their jobs because they can't even focus on their jobs because of the pain and turmoil that they're experiencing at home. I know that they're being terror texted. I know that spouse is showing up on the job and blowing up their spot and really causing havoc in their world because of the initial pain that was caused upon them. So there's a lot that men are going through. And I think there's not enough conversation about it. There's not enough articles about it. There's not enough books about it. But we're going to talk about it on the Couples Academy show because we want to let you know that we understand what you're going through and that you are not alone and that there is a pathway for your personal healing and restoration. But you got to be willing to take the first step. Stop being that guy that says, I'll figure it out on my own. Stop being that guy that says, listen, I ain't going to no other man or woman to tell me what I know. See, that's the ego and the arrogance that gets in the way that keeps you trapped in your pain.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I just want to comment on what Eric Palmtree said. And I'm feeling you. I'm sorry, Epic Palm Tree. I'm feeling you because my middle name actually means palm tree. So I'm feeling you. But he says, yes, the affair my wife had has broken me more than when my father passed. It's so crazy. I just had this conversation with a couple yesterday. They lost a child. And I said, man, I wonder, like, what's worse? The pain of death and loss of losing a loved one, or the pain of infidelity. And the fact that it's even in the running lets you know how painful this is for both parties, for both sides. And so we just have to make sure that we're giving it its proper due, proper justice, and creating space for the men to be able to speak up and talk about their hurt and pain, because we know you're hurting too.
And you know what? The pain of an affair being worse than the pain and death, when you really think about it, it makes sense because there's a permanency in death, right? There's a loss of a person and you'll never be able to have conversations. You'll never be able to engage. And so you're holding on to a memory. Right. But when you're dealing with an affair, there's the pain of the affair. And now you're forced to live with the person and deal with the person who created this pain. And not only are you dealing with that pain, but you're dealing with their human idiosyncrasies, their bad habits, the attitudes, the miscommunication, the hatred, the venom, all of that stuff compounded on top of the major pain. So it is a different type of
the
pain.
fact that it could happen again, the possibility that it could happen again, right?
Sonny Boy says, does he really regret it or just knowing the grass ain't greener on the other side? There's a lot of men who live in regret. I see what I'm hearing here is I don't know if there's a minimization of what men go through. I don't know if there's a demonization that women have about men in general.
Right.
There's a philosophy that all men are dogs and they have no heart and they have no emotions. They don't care. If they did it once, that's all they're going to do. We need to break down these mental constructs that are shaping the way that we view what men and women go through. Because to your point, Lakeisha, are you saying because I have a penis and I don't have a vagina that I'm not qualified to experience hurt and pain? That's the determining factor?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not the determining factor. Righteous Dame says, why are you all talking about molestation instead of husband being hurt about their marriage or what they did wrong and they are hurt from that? That doesn't have nothing to do with marriage. So I wonder when you chimed in, my brother, because this show isn't about molestation. It's talking about that men hurt, and men hurt in multiple ways. And so we started this conversation talking about how many, many times men are often left out of the conversation. We talk so much about women and their hurt and their pain and how they're abused and taken advantage of and molested and neglected. And so many times, until until people like Tyler Perry came into the fold and started really introducing us to the fact that men are being molested and taken advantage of as well. We weren't even thinking about men in that context. So the whole purpose of that conversation was that men are often left out of the conversation. And today, this show is all about you and everything that could potentially impact you. How does molestation impact your marriage? Well, if you don't heal from that molestation that took place in your childhood, you grow into a broken man who becomes a broken husband and a broken father who is destroying the life of others. So we have to deal with our hurt and pain. And so that's where that came from.
Man, I got to read these comments. Jervin, if I'm saying your name correctly, the pain of my decision and the regret that I have, I can't put into words. Now the fear of no reconciliation and her doing what I've done, I will let go. This is real. Like, you have to understand, there's so many men who live in regret because for whatever reason, and I don't understand it, but I heard so many men say, I didn't realize it would cause this much pain. Wait a minute. You never thought that your actions will cause pain in your spouse. And so now that you have seen it, right? You have a front row seat to your spouse's pain. What your spouse is going through is causing you pain. And I think that what happens is when you're constantly trying to replay, refix, re-experience the past, which is impossible to do, that's what keeps you tied to that pain. That's why there's a healing process that you have to go through. And unfortunately, not enough time, focus, and attention has been spent from men on figuring out how to heal, because as men, we were never taught to tap into that side of ourselves, our emotional side. Like when you ask men, real talk, how we talk about the 4 securities in Foundry: your financial security, your physical security, your spiritual security, your emotional security. And most people score very low when it comes to their emotional and spiritual securities. So the inner aspect of who we are as men, we don't even understand it. We more identify with the exterior aspect of who we are, our physical strength, our financial prowess. But inwardly, that's where we struggle. And so we need to get back to those lessons and a pathway that leads to that healing if we truly want to get rid of this pain.
Well, if here's the reality, everyone deals with infidelity different, and that's every woman is different, every man is different. So because we are not talking about specific people, situations, and circumstances, we keep it kind of general, right? But some men after infidelity, they're going to feel sad, they're going to feel hopeless. But then you got that other group of men who are angry and vengeful, and they just want to beat something up, tear something up, whatever the case may be. So this isn't about the infidelity. And when we're dealing with couples, it's hard to get that shift to happen because everybody wants to focus on the infidelity, but they don't want to focus on the events that led up to the infidelity. And this is what I'm hearing in the chat. Comment after comment after comment. What I'm reading is you guys are talking about the hurt before the infidelity. And so you must be Couple Academy regulars, because that's what we're trying to get you to. We're trying to get you to look at your individual self before the infidelity. What was going on in the marriage? There was a breakdown before you even thought about cheating on somebody else. So let's deal with that. But many times people can't get past the hurt of the infidelity to even try to begin to see themselves and really take an assessment and inventory of what was going on in the marriage before the affair.
Facts. Alan says, thank you, Hassani, but the pain that I caused my wife is what scares me. She is in so much pain that I feel like she's going to give up and call it quits. Brother, I get it. There's a level of fear that you have because the last thing that you wanted to do was to blow your marriage up. I remember hearing somebody say, it's not like I woke up one morning and said, this is the day that I'm going to destroy my family. That wasn't what you were thinking. But that's ultimately what took place as a result of those actions. And so now my question is, what are you doing? What are you and your wife doing? Are you on your own trying to figure this thing out on your own? Because if you are, it's going to be a very, 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 very difficult and long road ahead. And you don't have to go through this on your own. Lakeisha, it frustrates me that I'm forced to sit on the sidelines and watch people go through hell because they won't seek help.
They won't get help. They won't get help. And the thing is, he's talking about her tapping out, but the truth is, you might tap out. And we've seen that where it's like, I'm trying, I'm fighting, I'm doing everything I possibly can to restore, to be better, to prove that I'm different. But after a while, if you're pouring in so much and you're not getting any type of positive response from your spouse, eventually, without help and support, you might tap out. So you need support on both sides. That's the truth.
Lakeisha, I have to read this because it's true. I mean, it's just the fact of the matter for many people. This is what Epic Palm Tree said. Men can't have emotions because many women believe that their happiness is the gauge of a good relationship. Instead of dealing with my trauma, I need to deal with her and how she got there through me.
Come on. Listen, Epic Palm Tree, you're my dude. You are my dude. Happiness is based on happenings. We cannot base anything on our feelings and how we're feeling in the moment because they're fickle and they will change. Your spouse is not responsible for your happiness, nor should you be seeking happiness. You should be seeking joy because there's a difference. Joy is permanent, happiness is temporary, but it is not your spouse's job to give you joy or to make you happy. Do they have influence? Absolutely. But it is your responsibility to make sure that you are experiencing the joy and the fullness of whatever it is that God has for your life. That's not your spouse's job. And that goes into those unrealistic expectations that we set for our spouses. And every time you have an unrealistic expectation, you're going to end up in disappointment.
Listen, I can't believe that we're 11 minutes over. This has been a great conversation. I'm hearing in the chat that we need to do a part 2. We need to talk about this and ask the experts. And listen, we will do this because we obviously know that we hit on something that needs to further be discussed. We're just scratching the surface. So if you're interested, tune in tomorrow. We're going to continue this conversation. And Sunshine Boy, reach out to me, sis. I know who you are. Let's talk because I see that there's some things that you're going through and maybe we can be of a help and assistance to you. But listen, until then, have a great conversation. Watch this with your spouse. Yes. It may start something, but guess what? We'll finish it tomorrow in another episode. Love you guys. See you in the morning. Take care.